Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Heron Mirabel GMT reference 4001A. This watch is available from heronwatches.com for $690, which is €600. Heron are a mic brand based in Montreal in Canada, and the Mirabel GMT is a new release. The watch is available in 4 dial colour options, black, white, brown and blue respectively, and it's also available in 2 case finishes, gold and silver. So the black and brown dial versions are gold cased and the white and blue dial versions are silver cased respectively. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is housed inside this outer red cardboard box, which is decorated with contrasting gilt. So on the lid we have the Heron logo, also says Montreal in Canada because they are based in Montreal in Canada, and on the front we have the Heron brand emblem. Art Deco styling to the contrasting gilt, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. So one removes the lid to the watch box, which is a very snug fit. And as you can see, inside we have the watch box itself, and it sits inside a foam cutout panel, which is a very snug fit, so it does a good job of protecting it in shipping from any damage. And this is the watch box itself, so hard case, which is upholstered with a vinyl or PU leather to a good standard, matte finish to it, nice grained finish to it, which does look like leather, flawless stitching around the perimeter, and it's got a strap which is secured by a stainless steel popper, and we've got the Heron logo in contrasting gilt. So this is an example to other micro brands in the mid-tier at the price point of €600 of how to get presentation correct. Heron deserve credit here because this is very aesthetically pleasing. For example, they could have taken the default option, the less expensive option of just using a plastic or cardboard watch box, but this PU leather or vinyl coated hard case is very aesthetically pleasing. The interior is fully upholstered to a good standard with contrasting tan tone velour fabric, and in the centre section we have a cutout, and that houses the padded pillow cushion. As you can see, padded pillow cushion is upholstered with the contrasting tan tone velour fabric to a good standard, nice snug fit, and I really like the design of it. I think it's very good, presentation is good, I like the way it folds together, and it's secured with the strap with the Heron in gilt, so this is a very good looking case. With regards to items that come with the watch, it also comes with this Heron branded microfiber polishing cloth, Heron in gilt. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of a piece, and this is good presentation. The watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty, which is excellent, and I want to give due credit to Heron here because often micro brands in the mid-tier at the €600 price point only cover their watches with a 12-month international warranty. So to get 2 years of warranty on the Mirabel GMT is a credit to Heron, and I think it's very good. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 37.8mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 43.5mm, a thickness of 12mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The genuine leather strap is made by Deluxe, and it's the Deluxe Baronil strap. Deluxe retail this on their website for $110, so it's excellent to get this included on a piece which costs $690 or €600 respectively. So the Deluxe Baronil strap is made from genuine calf leather, and the calf leather comes from Tanneries Hayes in France. Now, to put this strap into perspective, it is a high-grade leather strap. It's the kind of strap one would expect to see on a high-tier piece costing €10,000+. So Heron deserve full credit for using a Deluxe Baronil strap, which retails at $110. The calf leather is excellent quality. Matte finish to it, and it tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the gilt buckle and tang. As you can see, the buckle and tang is signed in the top left corner with a D for Deluxe because it's produced by Deluxe on behalf of Heron watches. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. As you can see, finished to perfection. So the buckle and tang are made from solid 316L grade stainless steel, which is brass satin finished and mirror polished on the edges, and then it is gold PVD coated to match the gold PVD coating on the case. So absolutely finished to perfection. It's a high grade buckle and tang, no sharp edges, no burrs to it, and I like the gauge of the 316L grade stainless steel. The gold PVD coating is absolutely flawless. Every facet of it, including the buckle and tang, are coated to perfection. We have a double dome sapphire crystal which is boxed top hat profile, as you can see, 2mm thick, and it gives the piece a vintage or art deco aesthetic. AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the gilt applied Roman numerals, and also the gilt alpha hands, which are pilot style alpha hands. Faceted hands rather than being flat, and they are mirror polished to perfection. They also complement the gilt dial, which is a sector dial, and it gives it a 1920s Art Deco style. Rail track chaptering is printed with nice crisp gilt printing, and around the circumference of the chaptering we also have Arabic numerals for the 24 hours because this is a GMT piece. So I like the proportions of the Alpha pilot hands, and I also like the GMT hour hand, which has an arrowhead tip to it. The legibility, the symmetry of the dial is excellent with the absence of a date complication. I like the symmetry of the sector dial. I like the applied gilt Roman numerals, and I think the legibility is good. It really does look like an Art Deco piece from the 1920s. It does have that vintage aesthetic. AR coating works very well because it is very shiny and reflective due to the gilt applied in Roman numerals and also the gilt mirror polished alpha hands, but the AR coating does work very well. So box top hat crystal is highly reflective, clarity is good, the AR coating does work very well. Now with regards to the case, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, as is the bezel and the caseback, and Heron have gold PVD coated it. So this does look visually exactly the same as a solid gold case with a solid gold bezel and solid gold caseback. There's no visual difference between this because you can see on the flanks they have longitudinally brushed satin finished the flanks rather than mirror polished the stainless steel before gold PVD coating it, and because it's got a grained satin finish to the flanks rather than being mirror polished, it doesn't just look like a plated watch, it actually looks like it's made from solid gold. So the bezel is mirror polished to perfection, and I like the way the box top hat double dome sapphire crystal projects above the flat profile to the mirror polished bezel. The PVD coating on the bezel is absolutely flawless. I like the mirror polishing to it. And the tops of the lugs are mirror polished to a flawless standard, then gold PVD coated, and as I've detailed, the flanks have a contrasting longitudinal brushed satin finishing. Nice large bevel, which is machined to the undercuts of the flanks. That deletes the sharp edge, which enhances the comfort level and feel good factor, but also looks very aesthetically pleasing because the mirror polished large bevel machined to the undercuts of the flank contrasts with the longitudinal brushed satin finishing. On the crown side, we also have longitudinal brushed satin finishing and a large mirror polished bevel, which is machined into the undercuts of the flank. So absolutely gorgeous finishing to it. Mirror polishing is flawless. Brushed satin finishing is flawless. With regards to the crown, it's a cabochon pilot crown, and the cabochon profile of the crown is coin edge finishing, but also has a conical profile to it, so it's coin shaped rather like a pilot crown used on Flieger watches or pilot watches, and this conical shape of coin edge crown is called a cabochon crown, and I really like the profiling of it. It really does look like crowns used on Art Deco pieces from the 1920s. If you look at the centre of it, you can see the cabochon crown is also inlaid with enamel, and that complements the black enamel dial, which has a glossy finish, and also the caseback, which has a white and black enamel centre section, which I'll show you. So let's test the cabochon crown execution. So it's a push-pull crown rather than a screw-down crown, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 50 metres. 50 metres of water resistance is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece or a dress piece. It doesn't need a screw-down crown on 100 metres, for example. So cabochon crown is correctly proportioned. It's very grippy and tactile with a fine coin-edge teeth to it. So one can get good purchase with one's index finger and thumb. So in the closed position, as it's a push-pull crown rather than a screw-down crown, one can manually wind the Miyota Caliber 9075 automatic to its maximum 42-hour power reserve. It feels very smooth to manually wind, so to put this into perspective, it feels smoother than a Sellita Caliber SW200-1, and it also feels smoother than Miyota 8000 series calibers such as the 8215, which you'll all be familiar with. I like the feeling of the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. You can feel the meshing of the gearing is very good. It feels very refined, and it feels smoother to manually wind than an SW200-1, which has a heavier manual winding feeling to it. The tension in the mainspring on an SW200-1 feels a lot heavier. With a 9000 series of Miyota calibers, such as this 9075, it feels very smooth, feels lighter. So, pulling it out to the first click position is the GMT hour hand position, so just bear with me and I'll pull it out to the correct position. So this is a true GMT caliber, or it's also referred to as a traveller GMT. Now what that means is a true GMT or traveller GMT means that the GMT movement, you can independently rotate the hour hand independent of the other hand. So you'll see the GMT hour hand remains static. It doesn't move. The minute hand doesn't move, but you can see the second hand continues to run. So a true GMT or traveller GMT must have an hour hand for the 12 hours, which rotates independently. So the 12-hour hand rotates with a clicking. It doesn't feel smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise. Each hour is indexed, and the movement of the hand, which is indexed, matches the 24-hour scale around the circumference of the rail track chaptering, which is in gilt. And it feels very good, feels very solid, feels robust, reliable, but also very refined. The alignment of the alpha hand for the 12-hour hand aligns perfectly correct with the 24-hour Arabic numerals, or the hour markers, around the circumference of the dial. So you can rotate it both clockwise and anti-clockwise. When you rotate the cabochon crown clockwise, that has the effect of rotating the alpha hour hand anti-clockwise. So it works in reverse. When you rotate the crown anti-clockwise, it rotates the 12-hour hand clockwise. So the crown always rotates the opposite direction to the hour hand. That does take some getting used to, because conventionally you would pull out the crown and rotate it clockwise, and that would rotate the hour hand clockwise, but it actually works the opposite direction with the caliber 9075 automatic. So it works very well, alignment feels good, and I like that they've used a true GMT caliber or a traveller GMT caliber, which is good. So pulling it out to second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the gilt second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. So therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Miyota caliber 9075 automatic. So we're now in the time setting position, and one can manually set the time in the conventional method by cycling through the 12 hours. Clockwise and anti-clockwise, it feels very smooth. The thing I really like about the 9000 series of premium grade Miyota calibers is the smoothness, the refinement. They feel a lot lighter than the Sellita SW200-1 or the ETA 2824-2. They definitely feel a lot lighter than the Seiko NH35A, for example, or the Seiko NH34A, which is a GMT movement, and I like the feeling of it. It feels very refined. The gears mesh very well, and you can feel the build quality, tolerances, quality control and materials are higher grade than the 8000 series Miyota calibers. The 9000 series really are equal in quality to a Sellita SW200-1, for example. Minimal backplay. When you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the alpha minute hand, and I like it because you don't need to take up a lot of slack in the movement. The gearing has very good meshing, and it does have a minimal amount of backplay. Some backplay is necessary mechanically, because if it didn't have any backplay or any slack, when you push in the crown, that would cause the alpha minute hand to jump out of position, and therefore it wouldn't be possible to set the time precisely to the minute and second. But by having some backplay in the meshing of the gearing, it means you have to take up some minimal slack, but the benefit is when you set the time precisely, when you push in the cabochon crown, the minute hand remains static. It does not jump out of position, so it is refined, and I really like it. Minimal amount of backplay, but just enough so that when you push in the cabochon crown, the alpha hand doesn't move. So it is possible to set it precisely to the second, and I really like it. So it feels good to manually wind. The independent GMT hour hand rotates with clicking, clockwise and anti-clockwise, very well. And also the time setting feels nice and smooth, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. Cabochon crown is correctly proportioned. No sharp edges to the coin edge teeth to it. I like the conical profile of the cabochon crown, but it does feel correctly proportioned. It doesn't stick too proud outside the right hand flank, but it does look the right size for a 37.8mm head of the piece. Right, so I'll show you the strap in detail because it's one of my favourite aspects of this piece. So, as I've detailed, this padded leather strap is made from genuine calf leather, and it's made by Deluxe on behalf of Heron Watches. So, this model of Deluxe strap is the Deluxe Baronel, which retails at $110 US. To put this into perspective, this is equal quality to the very best of Hirsch straps, which are made in Austria. Or alternatively, the quality of the calf leather, which is made by Tanneries Hayes in France, is very high grade. It's equal in quality to Horween Shell Cordovan leather, which is top grade, or alternatively, the very best of calf leather used by Hirsch in Austria. So this Deluxe Baronel is one of their very best straps, and it's good to see Heron haven't cut any corners. For example, they could have used an inexpensive genuine calf leather strap on this piece, but this is high grade. It's $110 US price point strap. So it's padded. It is thicker at the spring bar end, which is where it needs to be reinforced, and then it tapers down in width but also thickness down to the buckle and tang end. So plenty of holes in it. It will fit from a 6 to a 7.5 inch wrist size, and it's very soft and supple. It really does feel very similar to Horween shell cordovan leather, which is top grade. It has that very soft and supple feeling to the calf leather. To put this into perspective, Tanneries Hayes in France are highly respected as a leather tanning factory. Tanneries Hayes produce some of the best calf leather in the world, and I think they deserve credit because this is outstanding. Matte black finish to it rather than glossy, and it has a lovely grained finish to it, so it's got a nice matte finish to it rather like shell Horween cordovan leather. The underside is lined with a contrasting tan leather liner, and you can see it's embossed with the lugs, and we also have 20mm quick release stainless steel spring bars. Now, Heron have made the correct decision here because they could have used standard spring bars, but quick release spring bars are the correct decision with a gold PVD coated case, because with PVD coating it is prone to being scuffed and scratched. For example, if you use a spring bar tool to remove a strap to exchange it, there's a risk of scuffing and scratching the gold PVD coating from the lugs. But by using quick release stainless steel spring bars, that negates the need for a spring bar tool, so you're not going to accidentally slip off the spring bar and scuff and scratch the lugs and therefore spoil the gold PVD coating on the head of the piece. So correct choice. I love the tan tone to the liner, and it's got contrasting black stitching around the perimeter, which is done to perfection. And on the other side, good attention to detail because it is also embossed with the lugs. And as you can see, we have two keepers. One is fixed, one slides, as one would expect, and they are correctly proportioned. The buckle and tang is finished to perfection. Solid 316L grade stainless steel, brushed satin finished, and the edges are mirror polished. Nice curved profiling to it, nice heavy gauge to the buckle and tang, and I like the angular profile to the buckle because it means that the buckle and tang engages well but also sits very snug to the wrist. It doesn't project too far. It's proud from the wrist. Lovely angular profile. The gold PVD coating is fantastic. Every facet of the buckle and tang is gold PVD coated to perfection. It looks exactly the same visually as a solid gold buckle and tang. There's no discernible difference visually. So high grade of strap. I like that it's padded and reinforced around the spring bar end, which is where it's prone to being subject to wear and tear and splitting and cracking, but at the spring bar end it's soft and supple, which is good. Now, with regards to Caseback, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel. We have a GMT hour scale with the countries and also the hours for the respective countries. Now, in the centre section, it's inlaid with enamel. This is the first time I've seen enamel inlay used on a stainless steel caseback. The stainless steel caseback is gold PVD coated to perfection. The engraving of the countries and also the hours of the respective countries for the GMT complication is high definition and crisp. It's nice and sharp, but it's been polished and deburred very well. So the engraving is high definition, but doesn't feel rough or scratchy against the wrist. The centre section, which is inlaid with black and white enamel, is inlaid to perfection. Glossy finish to the enamel, and it complements the enamel cap to the cabochon crown and also the black enamel dial. So it really does give the piece a vintage 1920s Art Deco aesthetic. So very good, because the GMT scale, as you can see, is black for the dark and white for daylight, and then we have the 24-hour scale around it with all the different countries around the world, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. Does add interest to the Mirabel GMT and fits the aesthetic of it being a GMT complication piece. Angular profile to the undercuts to the case. So the case is brushed satin finished and then gold PVD coated. Nice large chamfers, and the curved radial profile to the tips of the lugs means they've deburred and chamfered the tips of the lugs. So the corners of the case, the four tips of the lugs, do not have any sharp corners. The undercuts to the flanks have been deburred and chamfered very well, so no sharp edge to the undercuts. And the angular profile means this piece wraps around the wrist very well because it does have a compact 43.5 lug to lug measurement. So it's particularly suitable for collectors with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches. The screw down case back provides an effective hermetic seal to 50 meters. They deserve credit here because they could have used a pressed on case back, but a screw down screw down caseback provides a better hermetic seal. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well, very aesthetically pleasing. The thing I really like about it is, although this is an automatic rather than a manual wind or quartz powered piece, it has a very flat, low profile caseback and it's very thin. This is the benefit of using a Miyota 9075, which is a low-profile GMT caliber, versus using a thicker GMT movement. For example, they could have taken the less expensive option of using the Seiko NH34A, which of course is a GMT movement, but it is thicker and it needs more clearance around the rotor, therefore it would need a bubble back caseback, and this piece would therefore be thicker. It would be 13mm plus. This is only 12mm, and that's the benefit of the flat caseback, even though it has a box top hat double dome sapphire crystal which adds 2mm of thickness to the head of the piece. It's very flat and low profile. This enhances the comfort level and feel good factor because you'll see in the wrist shot it sits very snug to the wrist. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, thing to note is this deluxe Baronil strap, which is made from genuine calf leather, will fit from a minimum 6-inch wrist up to a maximum 7.5-inch wrist. I can just engage the end of the strap into the first fixed keeper, as you can see, but it's just a fraction too short for the second sliding keeper. However, I'm not going to be critical of this because for the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7.5-inch wrist, this strap will be long enough. This will fit up to a 7.5-inch wrist, as you can see. It's just half an inch too short for my 8-inch wrist for comfort, but for a 7.5-inch wrist it will suffice. In terms of comfort level, this is incredibly soft and supple, just like Horween Shell Cordovan leather. It is top grade leather from Tanneries Hayes in France, and the calf leather feels like a strap which has been broken in with daily wear for years of use. When a strap becomes very soft and supple, when it's really broken in, it feels comfortable. That is how this feels immediately. The very first time you put this on the wrist, it feels like a strap which you have worn daily for years. It's broken in, it's soft and supple, doesn't feel stiff. The comfort level of this strap is exceptional. The other thing I really like about it is the grained finish to it. It's got a satin finish to it rather than being glossy, and it's very aesthetically pleasing, as you can see. The matte black finish to it does look good. They've made the correct decision by not using a glossy black finish to it because it does have a glossy black enamel dial, and I think had they used a glossy black strap it would have been too shiny because the gold case is already very shiny and they need to reduce some of that glare of the piece, otherwise it would be far too shiny. So the other detail I like, which I'm going to show you in detail, is in between the lugs they've also engraved Heron GMT, and it's a very subtle detail, but it's very aesthetically pleasing. If you look very closely, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. It is hard to get the camera to autofocus on it because in between the lugs is mirror polished and then gold PVD coated, so therefore it's very shiny and reflective like a mirror, but it says Heron Mirabel GMT and it says 200/200, so this is one of 200 numbered pieces. Each of the Mirabel GMT pieces are numbered individually. This is number 200 of 200, so limited production run of 200, and in between the lugs we have the number 200/200 beneath Heron Mirabel GMT. Nice attention to detail, and the engraving is done to perfection. So strap is very comfortable, feel good factor is good, comfort level is good, but 7.5 inches is the maximum wrist size it will support. So just bear with me, I'll give you another wrist shot and you can see. Now, the thing I like about this is, above all else, is the lack of heft. It is surprisingly lightweight. It's only 65 grams, which for a 37.8mm head of the piece on a calf leather strap is exceptionally lightweight. This is the kind of heft one would expect with a quartz power or alternatively manual wind piece, not an automatic with a rotor, which does add some weight to it. 65 grams means it feels weightless on wrist. It really feels like an invisible piece. Although it does have a tall profile to the box top hat double dome sapphire crystal, this is only 12mm thick. I would expect this to be 13mm plus with a 2mm thick box top hat crystal, but it's only 12. You'll note from my previous reviews, 13mm and below is the sweet spot because that means a piece will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So needless to say, at only 12mm this will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff, so it's practical and comfortable for a daily wear piece and also a dress piece. It is low profile. Nice curved profile to the lugs. As you can see, it wraps around the wrist very well. Minimal gap underneath the tips of the lugs, so we don't have a large gap beneath the strap and also beneath the tips of the lugs. It really does curve around the wrist. The benefit of this piece is it is compact. It's got a short 43.5mm lug to lug. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug to lug measurements, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, respectively. So at 43.5, it is significantly below the sweet spot of 48. But for collectors with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you'll particularly appreciate the short, compact case of 43.5 because it wraps around the wrist very well, but the lugs are not too long and they curve around the wrist very well. So I would say this is particularly suitable for collectors with a 6 to 7 inch wrist. However, if you have a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, you may find that it doesn't have enough wrist presence to satisfy because 37.8 is small. Does give it a vintage aesthetic. It does look like a vintage Art Deco 1920s piece, which is good for the style of piece. But however, if you have a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, you may want a larger case. For example, if they made this in 39, I think it would dominate the wrist better and give more wrist presence. The lack of heft means it's very comfortable at 65 grams, and the fact it's low profile at 12 means it does look very slender. And I think it's a very good vintage aesthetic piece, and I like the gilt Roman numerals which are applied, and they complement the gilt alpha hands. So legibility is good. The glossy black enamel dial is very aesthetically pleasing, but it also contrasts very well with the gilt Roman numerals and also the gilt Arabic numerals around the circumference of the rail track chaptering. Sector dial gives good symmetry but also complements the applied Roman numerals and also the gilt rail track chaptering. So it's a very well designed sector dial, and I like the alpha hands. The proportions are good, legibility is good, printing is absolutely crisp and high definition, very aesthetically pleasing. So there's no loom on the dial and hand, so therefore we don't need to do a loom test. So therefore I'll move on to discussing the movement because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this is powered by the Miyota Caliber 9075 automatic, which is made in Japan. So as it's a 9075, it's a 9000 series, which is a premium grade of Miyota Caliber. It has 24 joules, it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Has hand winding and hacking, which use for complications, and also a quick set GMT hour hand, which, as I've demonstrated, makes this caliber a true GMT, or alternatively a Traveller GMT. With a Traveller GMT, you get the benefit of being able to independently rotate the 12-hour hand from the GMT hour hand, which I'll demonstrate again. As you can see, both clockwise and anti-clockwise, it's indexed with clicks. So this is a true GMT or a Traveller GMT rather than an office GMT. And I really like that they've used a true GMT or Traveller GMT movement in this piece. So it has 42-hour power reserve, which is very good. And the stated accuracy is -10 to +30 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Heron are doing a good job of regulating the Miyota Caliber 9075s they're using. This one is running consistently at +5 seconds per day. +5 is actually within chronometer grade accuracy of -4 to +6. So they're clearly regulating their movements in 5 positions to attain +5 from a Caliber 9075 automatic. Excellent. +5 is well within the stated accuracy of -10 to +30. So, accurate movements, reliable, well-proven workhorse GMT caliber, made in Japan, 9000 premium series. Build quality, quality control, finishing and materials are all excellent. It's a level above the 8000 series calibers such as the 8215, which you'll all be familiar with. In terms of quality, the 9075 is equal quality to other 9000 premium grade movements such as the 9015 and the 9039, which are personal favourites. You'll know that from my previous reviews. The 9075 is one of my personal favourite Miyota calibers as well, the GMT caliber version. The architecture is similar to the 9015 and 9039, which are my personal favourites, with a GMT complication added to it. So the benefit is it's low profile, and that means that Heron could reduce the thickness of this piece down to only 12mm. As I've detailed, had they selected a less expensive caliber such as the Seiko NH34A, which is a GMT, that would have made this piece 13mm plus because it does have a 2mm thick double dome top hat crystal. As you can see, it does add some thickness. With a NH34A, this would be 13 plus, but it's only 12, and that's because it has a flat case back with minimal clearance, because the rotor is very flat on the 9075 and the movement itself is thin. So they've made the correct choice. They could have made the cost-cutting measure of using a Seiko NH34A. They didn't. They opted for the more expensive option, which is the Miyota caliber 9075. So, lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, mid-tier piece, price point is $690, which is €600. Yes, it is excellent quality, and yes, it is excellent value at €600. There are no negatives to this piece whatsoever. It is the perfect daily wear GMT piece, or potentially a dress piece. The finishing to this piece is exceptional. It is high tier level finishing. Quality of the mirror polishing and the brush satin finishing is high tier level. So to put that into perspective, mid tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. High tier is €5,000 plus price point. So the finishing to the bezel, the head of the piece, the case back and the buckle and tang is high tier level. It's €5,000 plus level. But this is a mid tier price point piece at €600. The gold PVD coating is absolutely flawless. Every facet, even in between the lugs, is mirror polished and then gold PVD coated to perfection. Even the cabochon crown is gold PVD coated to perfection. The edges of the coin edge teeth are also gold PVD coated. There are no flaws in it whatsoever. Quality of the enamel inlay to the cap is perfection, and also that complements the enamel inlay to the gilt caseback, which is also gold PVD coated. So, no negatives to whatsoever. The quality control, build quality, finishing, tolerances of this piece throughout are fantastic at €600. The movement alone justifies the price points, because the Miyota caliber 9075 is a premium grade. It's a level above the Seiko NH34A. So, no negatives to it whatsoever. The glossy black enamel dial is finished to perfection. The gilt alpha hands are finished to perfection. Cabochon crown finished to perfection. I like everything about it. Above all else, one of my favourite aspects is the deluxe Baronil calf leather strap, which is made from Tannery's Hayes leather in France. This is $110 strap on a €600 piece. And again, no cost-cutting measures whatsoever. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Heron Mirabel GMT, reference 4001A. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.